June 20, somewhere northeast of San Francisco. This morning I boarded a smaller boat by myself. It traveled across a broad bay and then through the series of smaller ones into a river. The boat is crammed with miners traveling to the gold country. They clump together in groups, each of which talks a different language. Because I couldn't find water, I couldn't write, so I got bored. There are some other Chinese on board, but they were busy gambling. They wouldn't have allowed me to join even if I had money. So I wound up drifting over to the side of the boat to look at the water. Suddenly, a fish leapt out of the water. Its side shone in the sun, so it looked like a silver arrow. It was so lovely, it would be a shame to eat it. When the fish slapped back into the water, I felt a nudge in my side. I spun around to defend myself. I saw an American boy with the hair the color of fire. He looked to be about the age of Blessing. He grinned and pantomimed fishing. I guess he had been thinking some of the same things. Through signs, we learned each other's names. It took a while to work out his name because his name was in reverse. In China, your family's name is the most important thing, so we put our family's name first and our personal name second. Americans must think the opposite because they put their personal names first and their family names last. Strange. His personal name is Brian. His family name is Mulheron. He's just as curious about me as I am about him. After a while, I forgot about how strange he looked. Unfortunately, signs got us only so far. So then we took out what we thought was a stick. It ended in a point with some black stuff. He called it a pencil. He was able to write on the deck without a brush and ink. I don't think I'll ever get those up since the writing is nicer to look at. But the pencil is handier when you're traveling. Then, through pictures and signs, I learned that he is not American. He comes from a country called Australia. I'm embarrassed to say I've never even heard of it. If I understand him right, his country is to the south of China. I wish we had studied more about the world. However, our teacher felt that China was the most civilized country in the world. Why should we study another place? We had learned about the Golden Mountain only because our clansmen were going there. I admired his pencil so much that he gave it to me. I tried not to take it, but he insisted. My new friend has a big heart. I am writing this with my new writing implement. No more ink sticks, no more inkwells, no more finding water. Later. I've already worn down the pencil. Brian showed me how to whittle the pencil with a knife to keep the point. I used it to draw him a crude picture of home, which I gave him as a present. A boy with skin as dark as mine came over. Over his clothes, he wore what looked like a black woolen blanket with a hole cut through the center for his head. Bright yellow, red, and blue stripes decorated the bottom. Like Brian, he put his family name last, but his personal name is Esteban. And through our system, we learned he is from Chile. Then a fourth boy joined us. He has hair the color of mud. His name is Hiram, and he is a real American. Hiram and Brian speak different dialects of the same language. Hiram is a year older than Brian. Esteban is about a year younger. A fifth boy is Jubal. His skin is even darker than mine. He is as old as Hiram and is the slave to the tall, golden-haired man. In the 100 men and boys on the deck, at least 10 countries are represented, maybe even more. It's now a game of signs and pictures as we try to communicate. We come from all parts of the world. Brian and I traveled east. Esteban came north. Hiram came west from the other coast of America, which he referred to as the States. That puzzled me a bit. Most of the states are in the eastern half of America beyond the mountains. But according to Hiram, California is also a state. California was taken from the southern country of Mexico only 4 years ago. Normally, a territory would have to wait years before being promoted to a state. However, as soon as gold was discovered here, America didn't want to lose California and made it a province right away. Jubal and his owner came across the land with a large group from the province called Missouri. Of their group of 10, they lost 3. Hiram has an older cousin who traveled here 3 years ago, sailing all the way around the continent of South America. Hiram and his older brother set out by boat to join their cousin, but because their cousin had encountered fierce storms at the southern tip of South America, they traveled south only as far as a place called Panama. There, they got off one boat and walked across the Panama Isthmus instead. On the other side, they boarded a boat to go north to San Francisco. However, his brother got sick and died on the boat. It is dangerous no matter how you try to reach the Golden Mountain. I looked around the crowded boat for every person here. I wonder how many more died on the way. We have begun to teach one another words in our languages. Mostly we try to ask Hiram questions about America. Here is so much we need to know about our new home. Hiram has been very patient. He's curious about us too. He wants to know why we're going to the Golden Fields. That's what the Americans call the Golden Mountain, or sometimes Hiram calls it the Gold Country. Brian laughed and said he is here to get rich. Hiram wants enough money to buy his own farm someday. He wants to marry a girl back home. I didn't know enough American to explain all the reasons why I'm here. It isn't just a question of becoming rich or buying land. Brian nodded and said in the end, we aren't here for the money or for the land of our families. We are all dreamers, and not just ordinary dreamers. There are plenty of folks at home who walk about their dreams and do nothing. However, each of us here have risked our lives to make our dreams come true. I bet everyone on board the boat has done the same thing. Maybe almost everyone I meet in San Francisco. We all sat for a moment thinking about that. We have gotten past so many dangers already. Surely we'll survive the new ones. Hiram is the most unselfish fellow. When we have all found our dreams, his house and his farm will be open to all of us too. Still later. A group of white men just came over to us. I couldn't understand why they were so mad at Hiram. The words flew by too fast for me to follow, but Brian explained that the men are Americans. They didn't like Hiram being friendly to us. In fact, they don't like foreigners at all. They want all foreigners to go home. That means not only Esteban, but myself, but Brian too. I couldn't understand what they were saying, but their faces were ugly masks. Some men in Brian's and Esteban's groups started to shout back. I looked around. All the men had guns and knives. I was afraid there was going to be a battle right there on the deck. However, bullies are alike all over the world. The first group retreated. I felt scared then. I am so far from China. Esteban was just as upset. Even Brian looked afraid. Then Hiram hugged each of us in turn. As long as there are enough Americans like him, I don't worry. June 22nd, Sacramento, or Second City. I might as well bring this up to date while I'm waiting in line. I made it to my next stop. It's so hot here, just like at home in Tiger Rock. About now, we'd be holding the Dragon Boat Festival. Crews would paddle dragon-shaped boats in races. The air would be so damp my clothes would stick to me. The air is drier here. Once we got off the boat in Sacramento, I had to find the Chinatown. Luckily, Brian and Hiram had taught me a little about their simplified system of writing. English is so strange. Instead of thousands and thousands of characters to learn, they only have 26 characters, which they call the alphabet. Those characters combine to make words, but they write everything backward, from left to right in horizontal lines. Chinese write from right to left in columns. After having to memorize Chinese characters, it was easy to learn their 26. Of course, putting the pictures together into words is another matter, but I am determined to learn. In Chinatown, I found the local headquarters of the 4 districts, where there are lines of Chinese waiting to check in. It's my turn. I have to go. Later. I hate paperwork. There's always so much of it. When I was finally finished, the clerk tried to steer me into the store to buy outfits. He said that I'll need a warm coat and boots. Even in the summer, it is cold up in the Gold Country, and in the winter, there's snow. So I looked, but all the prices were in American dollars. When I asked him what the exchange rate was, I was shocked. I had thought my stolen string of 100 cash was a fortune, but not here. All the strings of cash, the wealth Uncle had sent home, was worth only a few American dollars here. So I said they cost too much. The clerk said, I'll be sorry. I joined a group of miners on their way to the Gold Country. Hiram is here too. He looks just as glad to see me as I am him. It turns out we're both heading to the Big Bend. The whole party number is about 30, and I'm the only Chinese. Hiram and I try to talk to others, but it's hard to work. We have so few words in common. However, we figured out that the men in our party come from 12 countries. Many of the lands are ones I've never even heard of. June 23rd, in the gold country. Hiram and I are both the curious types. We found a driver who lets us sit with him on the wagon seat. There's no golden mountain. The gold is scattered all around the mountains instead. Some of it is in the ground. Some of it washes down the rivers. I feel so dumb. The Golden Mountain is a fancy poetical name. The Golden Mountain is a fancy poetical name. It's not the literal truth. June 26. The mountains rise steadily before us. We are following a trail eastward along a wide, quiet river. The driver explained that the river's swollen from the winter snow melting in the mountains. Snow. I've read about it, but I've never seen it. Snow never fell in Tiger Rock, only in northern China, where it was cold in the winter. I hope the snow lasts long enough for me to touch it. June 27. The land has begun to rise, forming rolling foothills. It is dry here. The grass covered the hills has already dried up to a dull gold. The trees are scarcer and different. They grow in hollows between the hills where they can get water. June 28. The going is getting harder. The road is sandier and the wagon often gets stuck. We all pitch in to help get it out. Beside us, the river is narrower and deeper now. Its waters foam along the river like white scales on a dragon. When I was thirsty, I put my hands in for a drink. The water is as cold as ice. My fingers feel numb. The driver wasn't joking when he said it was melted snow. June 29. Great slabs of rock thrust up from the dirt. Somehow, scraggly bushes and trees clinging to the ledges. The air has begun to grow colder. I wonder if the clerk was right about the clothes and boots.